Hey there guys, how are you doing? So, here I am at my local cafe, just grabbing my coffee, love my keep cup, and here to have a quick chat about international rugby. So there's plenty going on. Obviously we had the game at the weekend. There's been a whole stack of different squads announced, and to be honest, I'm not going to get through all of those. And also we've got all the rugby coming up in the next month. So, as normal, tap the screen, show love hearts and how much you think, and swipe, I think it's left or right to share it with your followers. And please type questions at the bottom, and we can have a chat about all the international stuff that's going on at the moment. So at the weekend, England beat Wales in a game that was really kind of overshadowed by the domestic finals that were going on the previous day, really. And it's one of the few occasions where the domestic rugby selection is sort of more important than the international one, and hence England were missing a whole bunch of players to the Aviva Premiership final. Wales weren't impacted so much, or impacted at all, because they obviously weren't or at least weren't meant for the domestic players. The French players obviously don't have to come back for that game. So there were so both sides had a few new players in, trying things out. So people like Oscar Davies and Halfpenny couldn't come back. So Wales had some replacements there. For England, obviously, the entire second row were playing for Saracens, and various members of the backs were playing elsewhere or injured. So you've got to say, how much can you take from the game? England won it 5-1 is one way of looking at it. The other way of looking at it is to look at the points, and obviously the big thing there was, from an English point of view, was the reception that Ford got, where he sort of hit, I think it was 1 from 7 from the kicking team, which is clearly not up to standard for an international kicker. There was talk about boos, but if you had a quick read on the Rugby United website, there's a good blog post there talking about it, that actually has Eddie Jones made a bigger deal out of it than really was going on there. From what I hear, the booing wasn't actually that loud, there wasn't as much of it. And maybe it's one of those things, if he kept quiet about it, no one would have mentioned it at all. But Eddie Jones has clearly decided it's a topic he's going to bring up and use. And it'll be interesting to see what the impact is on Ford's confidence going down under now, with all that going on, the hoo-ha that's now going on around that. And obviously Wales were some big question marks over their defence to have allowed in 5 tries in the game, and going down to visit the All Blacks, who and play them in Eden Park, where the All Blacks haven't lost in God knows how many years. Clearly shows that that's going to be a very big ask, and I will be there at Eden Park, so check in on Twitter for my tweeting, and also little video clips from the game. But it's not looking good for Wales coming down under. If we have a quick look at the look through the Welsh squad, it's very much the same players as before. There hasn't been added there any new caps at all selected. That's as steady as he goes. So Wales, for Gatland, really doesn't see this as being a refresh for the next Rugby World Cup cycle. And in all honesty, coming down to New Zealand, where Wales have never won before, I can understand that it's not the best place to be trying to blood new youngsters and new caps. So he's probably made the right choice there. And if he is going to start blooding new players, we should see it much more in the November internationals, where he's got the opportunity to play against some easier opposition. And that's no disrespect to anyone else. Remember, New Zealand are the best team in the world, remember. So that's so it's not. So I think he's probably taken the right route. I still think that Wales will probably lose all 3 games against the All Blacks. So moving on to the All Black squad, people talk of this as right pickings for when to hit the All Blacks, and with all the big names that have gone. So obviously you've lost Rich McCaw, Dan Carter, Nonu, Conrad Smith, are the obvious, from the first choices, and then you've lost Slade as well. So for me, that's not actually. If you look at that, you're talking about one member of the pack won't be there. You've still got 7 out of 8, so you're going to get your platform. You've got Aaron Smith, who's the best scrum half in the world, so you're going to get service from that platform. Then you've got Cruden at 10, who has plenty of experience. So, yeah, fine, he's not Dan Carter levels of experience, but he's still a damn fine player. So there's no problems there. And then in the back three, you've also got Surveyor and Ben Smith. Rhys Webb is the world's best scrum half. I don't know. Aaron Smith is fantastic. Rhys Webb is a very good scrum half, but I'd still put Aaron Smith as being the best in the world at the moment. So the only question mark really for the All Blacks isn't that centre pairing. You're not coming at, so when people are saying that the All Blacks are this is a good time to hit them, it's really there's not the big turnover that perhaps you'd think there would be, having heard of big names that have moved on. Moving on to England's selections to tour Australia. We've got, I think it was pretty much as expected. There were perhaps a couple of surprises around the props, and I ran a poll recently asking about the number of times England have won in Australia. England have only won 3 times in Australia, and 2 of those wins were with the 2003 team. So they won just before the Rugby World Cup, and then obviously in the Rugby World Cup final. So it's a much tougher ask than I think people really understand. If you take away that 2003 team, it's about 1 win ever in New Zealand. So any expectations of England coming down and winning 3 games, or even winning the Test series, is really is going to be historic, an historic tour. So I say the only from the actual squad, the only real surprise probably were a couple of guys in props. Otherwise, it's steady as she goes. I still think there are 2 big question marks, or 2 big questions that Eddie Jones had to answer that he hasn't answered yet. What is the back row combination in the scrum, and what is going to be the centre pairing? The back row in the scrum looks to be, will switch Haskell and Brobshaw round with numbers, and actually Lancaster didn't get it that wrong, and he's going to go with those. So I think the back row is going to be the same. Just reading it out, it's all going to hinge on the first test. If England go well, Oz are in trouble. The Rugby podcast. Yeah, I think I do think England do need to hit the ground running. Against Australia, I don't think there have been a few left field picks in the Australian squad, and it's going to be interesting to see who is playing. For me, one of the big things is going to be Foley at 10. I wasn't a really great fan of his going into the Rugby World Cup, but having seen how he played at the Rugby World Cup, and then also how his impact he's had since coming back to the Tars, he is, to me, he's probably their key man for them. There are a few question marks as to what the centre combination is going to be. Are they going to still play a playmaker at 12, or are they bring Kieran Durrani in to 12? We'll have to wait and see. It's going to be interesting to see what's going on there. Going back to the England team, to me, so it looks like the back row combination is going to be steady as is that it's actually the same. The answer is the same answer. For the centre combinations, so quick question here, how do I rate the chance of Clifford and Harrison both starting? I really don't think they'll start. I think we'll see Clifford on the bench, but I think it's going to be a Haskell, Rob Shaw, Billy Vanapola as starting as the first choice. I don't see that we're going to see a revolution in the back row. And actually, Harrison is with the Saxons, who was just brought in for the Wales Test. Is that right? I just go away and check, remind myself about that one. But I think it's going to be yes, because Billy Vunipola was missing, so hence Harrison was brought in as cover for the Welsh Test. No, I think it's going to be the standard with Clifford on the bench. I don't think he's going to change anything there. Moving on to the centre combination. Personally, I don't see Farrell and JJ as being a long-term centre combination. I see Farrell as being England's best 10, moving forward to the bench, and then looking at. I was going to go for Manu Slade, but Manu is obviously out injured. So, as Rugby Inside Line suggests, it looks like T.O. Slade would be my choice. But JJ has a lot of supporters, so personally I see a Slade JJ combination as being a bit too lightweight. I think there are times when you do need a basher and someone just to get yourself front foot ball. So that's how I see those ones panning out. Very positive. Burgess, he's an Oz after all. Maybe Burgess could be one of the emergency backups if there's injury replacement. So that's those two. I'm just currently running a poll on Rugby Inside Line, what about wingers? So I think we're going to be starting with Watson and Nell. Watson again got over the line well, and Nell's been having a good season, so I don't see that changing at all with Brown at fullback. Personally, I would look at thinking about maybe moving Nell or Watson to fullback. I think long term one of those two is going to take up that mantle. Just like they did at in the Junior Rugby World Cup when they won. Nell was at 15, and Watson was on the wing. Since they moved into professional, Nell's pretty much played all his rugby on the wing, whereas Watson's played a bit more at fullback. So we could maybe they'll swap round for the top side eventually. So yeah, Marlin Yard I don't see will make it. Will break back to some duo, and we'll see Ford and Good on the bench for really going on. I guess the hidden question there was about Ashton. I think Ashton's a very good player. Hi there, Arch Fox. Please do feel free to type any questions you want in the bottom, and I'll try and give you my opinion. Ashton to me is a very good player who for a certain style. He's very good at tracking the ball and does get over the line. But I think if you want to play a different style, I think he becomes a round peg in a square hole. So I think that's why Ashton's not on tour. Wade and Rokadaguni. Wade still for me has too many defensive issues, and he's probably better than he was a couple of seasons ago, where he made a couple of specifically remember making a couple of errors behind his goal line and giving up tries. So I think he's better than he probably was, but I still wouldn't trust him. I still don't see him as being an international level defender. Rokadaguni I think has been very unlucky. I think he's the guy that I would have taken on tour probably instead of Yard. Marlin Yard clearly had a very good Six Nations in the training camp, and Eddie Jones likes what he saw and what he has to work with. Rokadaguni I think is in a poor Bath side had a very good season, so I think he's the unlucky player there. Who will be the midfield for the All Blacks versus Wales? Charlie Ngaitai and Fekitoa with Ryan Crotty on the bench. That's how I see it panning out. The other option is that is Crotty and Fekitoa with Charlie Ngaitai on the bench. But those three will make up will make it onto the team. Is my guess. Fekitoa is clearly clearly going to take the 13 shirt, and it's always been a question as to who can replace Nonu. And the answer to that is you can't. Nonu was a fantastic player, and to me he was the key player for the All Blacks last year, and always gave them front foot ball and go forward when they needed it, and also gave them a second kicking option. It was a very clever A lot of people remember him as being as a bash-up, but that's not how I see it. No, I don't see. I'd say that's. I think it's clearly going to be between Nartai and Crotty for the 12th shirt, and the other guy will get on the bench. So where was I before? I went from there. Number 10 will be Cruden. He's got the experience, and he also has the relationship with Charlie Nartai from both of them playing at the Chiefs. So I would start with Crotty for the first game, and maybe give Sopoaga a game later in the series when he's got an inside centre who's got a little bit more. He's got a couple of games, a game or two under the belt. So that's how I'd do it. Train of thought. We were talking about the wingers for England. So yes, I'm going to move on to Ireland. Running a poll at the moment about international jerseys. We seem to be getting them every year now. It's getting a little bit crazy. So do have a quick vote on that poll. Tell me if you think they should change the style of jersey every game, every tour, every year, or every World Cup. To me, it's getting a bit too frequent now. I think Ireland got a new sponsor. Well, that's fine. Just change the sponsor on the same design jersey. Don't give us a brand new. We don't need a new jersey every year. Rugby Inside Line, like I said, thinks it should change the jersey every 2 years. Some clubs don't change every 2 years. Some clubs change every year. Question here: do you think Hughes can fit into the squad when he qualifies from citizenship? Well, Hughes is going to have to when he qualifies from residency rather than citizenship. Just technicality. But Hughes is going to have to push someone out. Which is going to be interesting to see who he comes in for, and see him purely as an 8, or will they see him as someone who can come on the bench and can play across the back 3? Because Billy Vunipola is definitely an 8. So if somebody else gets injured, you need someone on the bench who can at least do a job at either 6 or 7. You can't just have a bench player who's just an 8, like something England have done in the past. I think it was a bit of a mistake. But yeah, I think he's definitely going to get into the squad. Do you think Sips has a future in England with his recent Saxons call-up? I think that Sips is has clearly got some sort of future. Sorry, going back to Nathan Hughes possibly replaced Billy Vunipola. Billy Vunipola's he could do. That's very true. But Billy Vunipola has been playing very well and is a quality player. So it's going to take some effort to oust him. Straight away, no, I don't see it happening straight away. Over time, maybe. But it's going to be a great competition between those two. And the question is Ben Morgan out? I mean, he's never going to play for England again. It is definitely a place where we've got quality. So it's good that there are options. What we'd want to make sure, though, is we have settled options going into the next Rugby World Cup. Now that applies to all the teams. That they need to have a settled team and have players with caps. You can have the odd player who's a bolter, but you can't have lots of them. So anything with Hughes is he could used as another line option. Yeah, there is that. You do have to balance that, but I think Vunipola is definitely earning his place, earning his shirt at the moment. It'd be very hard to displace. So there's another question in there, and I've gone blank. I was trying to remember it. See if I can. Is there a way of bringing it back? No, there isn't. So that's how I see the. Sippers, yes, right. Sippers, has he got a future with England? Yes and no. Clearly, he's working. He's working hard, and his days of stealing bottles of vodka from behind nightclubs, it looks like those are over. And with Wasps, he's going to clearly have a team playing in the European Champions Cup and could really be showing good things. The problem is he's got three young, talented fly halves to get past. in Ford, Farrell and Henry Slade. Slade, for me, could be England's long-term option, or England's fly half going into the next Rugby World Cup. He's a quality player, he's a decent kicker, so whilst, yes, I can see Sippers has a future, I just can't see how he gets into the side again. I think he'll always be that fringe squad player for England. So that's where I see him. So Ireland have got themselves a brand new shirt, jersey, and they're off to South Africa. Ireland have never won in South Africa, so it's going to be interesting to see. Yeah, well, that's going to ruin that poll I was going to run. So it's going to be interesting to see how they go down there. Obviously, South Africa got a new coach. I've not seen the squads for either of the sides yet going into that one. But that's if Ireland have pretensions of getting themselves back up to being where they were prior to the Rugby World Cup, they need to be putting in some good performances and grabbing a game. But Ireland's problem, as always, is depth. If they get one or two injuries, they're going to struggle. But it's going to be interesting to see how South Africa are going to play. Are they going to... Adrian Strauss, a good choice to captain. Yep, agreed. Over Whiteley, Vermeulen, Lambie. Yeah, I don't think Lambie, you can put Lambie down as captain because will he even start? Is he the best fly half? So your captain's got to be someone who you know is going to start. So maybe Vermeulen, but the way his transfer to Europe was handled was very bad. Is he really leadership material or captain when that kind of stuff was going on last season? So I don't know. So I'm no problems with that. For me, what the big interest is, are we going to see more of a Lions influence and a bit more running rugby, or are we going to see the standard South African style of rugby? It's going to be interesting to see what we get from there. Final one I wanted to talk about was Scotland on their tour. So I know that they've gone for basically all their first choice players, are not resting anybody. And one of the comments that Cotter made was that Scotland can't afford to rest players. So you need to wonder how much can Hogg carry on playing for. There was a good article that I'm going to share, I'll probably show it this Sunday, where someone actually measured the number of games that these players have played. Maybe they haven't played as much as some of us think, just because whenever they do play, they are players that we spot and we notice. But players like Hogg need to be looked after because he is a touch of class that Scotland needs, and we'll see how that all pans out. The other point about Scotland, the SRU have just gone and cancelled their relationship with London Scottish. This is something they only started in January this year, so it's not been going very long, and was supposed to be a development pathway for players. One of Scotland's problems is they only have 2 professional teams, so they need to be using London Scottish as part of the development pathway. Now, it sounds like, reading from the London Scottish website, that basically the SRU changed their plans, or didn't have the finance in place to do what they said they were initially going to do. This obviously looks very poor on London, on the SRU, on their planning. A lot of us thought this was a great idea when it started, and was the way forward for Scotland. Now, unfortunately, that's now been taken away, and that's not going to be there. London Scottish were going nowhere. It's not necessarily about where they're going. It's about trying to create more depth for the of players. Are Scotland going to replace this idea with maybe a Borders team or a team somewhere else in Scotland that's going to be in the Pro 12? Unlikely. I can't see where they're going to get the funding for that. Here they had a privately funded club where they could put players through and help to increase their depth. I don't see where else Scotland can get that from. So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe London Scottish wasn't a good place for players to develop. But I think that's That's something that needs to be there. Do you think international teams perform better with less clubs? No. International teams you need the depth. I mean, if you look at what happened to Ireland, and they've got 4 clubs at the Rugby World Cup. They lost 5 players or so to injury, and suddenly they were just taken apart by Argentina. They just didn't have the depth of experienced players to come in for a Rugby World Cup quarter-final. How many countries do? I don't know, but Scotland with just 2 clubs really need more depth and control than that. Argentina has 0 clubs. Well, Argentina now have the Jags, and they have threatened to only use the Jags for the Pumas, which would be interesting. I really don't think that will work either. I do think they need a few more teams than that to choose from. I don't think they can just choose an entire team from one club. I think Gatland did it once, and they only chose 14 players from the Ospreys or something like that for one game. So, yeah, it's been done in the past, but I don't. It's not a recipe that's worked in many places. I think I've covered just about everything I wanted to talk about. So if you've got any last questions, throw them up. Otherwise, I will call that a day. And please do join me in around about 10 hours for #Rugby Chat on Twitter. I'll also be doing a pop-up #Rugby Chat tomorrow morning, New Zealand time, so about 10 p.m. UK time. So, quick question: Japan International Rugby, where's that going? So, the problem with Japanese rugby is the administration. It's not so much the players and the coaches, which is why Eddie Jones left. So, the Sunwolves, considering how late they were thrown together, considering the mess-ups that have been around on the administration, have done relatively well. Okay, they're putting in fighting performances. They've not been getting the wins, and I don't think anyone expected them to do so. But Hammett's been doing a good job. They need to sort out. They need to get a professional union in place, rather than have amateurs running it. And we need to also see them working with the companies which make up the teams in the top league, rather than against them. Setting up a Super Rugby franchise and then expecting the top league companies to pay their players while they're away is something that doesn't work. Isn't Pocock going to one of the other teams? Yes, Pocock is going to one of the top league teams. The problem is the top league is that they're sponsored by companies. They are not fully professional. They do go out and sign very high-profile players, particularly from South Africa and Australia, and also to a lesser extent New Zealand. And but those players are expected to basically carry the team, and not all the other players on the team are full-time professionals. The top league also is funded well, and it's not working. So the Japanese Rugby Union and the top league need to start working together. They need to find a way of linking the top league companies to Super Rugby franchises, and looking at long-term the goal of having a whole conference, whole Super Rugby conference in Japan, really, with 4 or 5 of about 4 of the top league. I think it's top league. I think it's got 14 teams. Anyway, so 3 or 4 of the teams associated to each of the Super Rugby franchises, and having a proper pyramid. Whereas now the Super Rugby franchise is totally divorced from the top league, and there isn't really anything going on there. Right. I'm going to call it a day. Join me for #Rugby Chat in about 10 hours, and pop up one at 10 p.m. UK time or 9 a.m. New Zealand time. And I'm trying to crowdfund Driving More. So if you would like to become a patron for as little as $1 a month. Go to patreon.com/driving more, patreon.com/driving more to help me crowdfund Driving More. Thanks a lot, guys, and see you over on Twitter for the #Rugby chats over the next 24 hours.